Hi, everyone. Today we have Dr. Leslie Teal, Senior Director of AI Product of AI Singapore, joining us at the AI Evolution by SCB10X. So we'll be discussing about from labs to nation-scale AI products. Welcome, Dr. Leslie.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me, and it's a great privilege and honor to participate in this, as well as to be working with SCB10X.
Thank you. Let's jump into the first question. I know that you make a really remarkable transition from really managing sovereign wealth at GIC, or the government of Singapore Investment Corporation, and now you're working for the AI products, which actually serve for more than 600 million populations across Southeast Asia, right? What do you take, or what are the fundamental principles that you have from the macroeconomics strategy and then adopt it to actually really scaling AI from really pilot research up until really build a product?
Three ideas. First, in finance, the risk you take is how you make returns, right? You make money. For AI, we have to be very clear about our bet, if you like, or the reason why we think we have a reason to build a model, and what is a durable advantage. So when we started Sea Lion, that was multilinguality. We felt it was a gap, and data was the advantage that maybe the big tech didn't completely have. So that's the first lesson. The second idea was diversification. Diversification is the only free lunch in finance, but for AI, we have many unknowns. So diversification is important because we have to explore and try and see what works and what doesn't work. And finally, in investing, your trust that you have with your stakeholders is also very important, because it enables you to keep to your strategy and to survive short-term shocks, right? Surprises. In AI, trust is important for adoption. It's also important in our work because we're trying to build a community of data people, providers, also people who will say whether an AI works or not for our region.
All right, thank you so much. That's quite an insight, sharing from the experience of something that's similar and something quite different as well between in wealth investment and also between the AI considerations. Let's move to the next questions. For Sea Lion's evolution, I know that you guys have been building Sea Lion since 32, right? And it's been evolved from version 1 to right now version 4 with the multimodal capabilities as well. Could you walk us through the key inflection points that you have during building these models? What are the academic promise challenges that maybe prevent us from really provide your production ready AI products, or what are the solutions that you find along the way?
Yeah, I would say when we started, we had to prove that we could build a model, and we also had to prove that we could that the model made a difference, right? So that was build and ship something that was, if you like, really meeting a gap. And in order to do that, we pre-trained from scratch, and we proved, one, that we could do it, and second, that the data made a difference. But it was still a very academic model, to be honest, because when we built ourselves from scratch, we have our own tokenizer. And then we realized, wow, actually not many people can use it so easily. I still remember issues with AWS and Hugging Face, for example, trying to do the inference from the model. The second inflection point, I think, was when we said, well, we know how to pre-train, but it's a very expensive way of doing this. Can we continue to pre-train? Can we reduce catastrophic forgetting, but still get the benefit, right? And we shifted to this strategy so that we could best make use of open models while remaining true to our goal of trying to make sure models that have multilinguality, Southeast Asian representation. I think we're now at the third phase. Multilinguality and multimodality, to some extent, is yesterday's problem. We are moving into smaller models, more efficient models, and safer models, right? How do we guarantee safety? How do we ensure models are running in the most efficient way possible, especially in our region where not everybody can spin up even H100 or A100, right? Can we put it on laptops? So I think as we progress, these are all the different inflection points that we keep having to, that we've encountered. But back to what I said in the beginning, it's all about like, where's the gap and what is the moat that we have?
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this journey with the sea lion, and also like, in between of like the inflection points from like multimodality up until now, like a smaller model, right? So that's actually, we also have the Typhoon model and we share the same vision and the roadmap as well. So I think that's really good to know that, we are on the same, like, sort of road moving forward. Now, let's talk a little bit about like, once you train the sea lion model, I heard quite often that the sea lion models contains about 13% of Southeast Asian contents, right? If you compare that to like other open source model like Llama, I mean, like, that's negligible to actually using our language, as a representations in that model. So coming back as like enterprise leaders considering regional AI deployment, right? What's the benefit, or what does the different in cultural representation like change the business value or business outcomes of the enterprise?
I think here, both you and us, the Typhoon team, will have the same view that not in all use cases, but in some use cases, our models have better representation, better capabilities, better understanding of the region. And therefore, if that use case calls for that kind of capabilities, by all means, use Typhoon's models or Sea Lion, right? But there's also a more general point I would make that both the Typhoon team and us, we are doing, if you like, customization, right? At different scale, right? But we're not doing it at the company level, but we're doing it at the regional level. Actually, customization is very important for every enterprise, because every enterprise will want to take a LLM, especially as cost comes down, it's easier to deploy, and they want to customize it for their own use case, right? So in a way, we're a little ahead, but I think this will be the next phase of use of LLMs.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really quite reflections for us as well. And then like, let's move forward in terms of building a model and then really get that model to go to the market, right? So you have to consider pretty much like two factors. One of them is like the speed to go to the market, and another one is actually really well known for like Sea Lion, that you guys have a really ethical data sourcing and also like the currency of the data quality, right? So how would you balance these two?
Yes, actually, I think this one is very clear. We don't see it as a trade-off. Actually, trust and a right community is the reason why it can move very fast. It's important for data collection. For example, if people don't trust, like you don't know, they're not going to give you data that they think is important if they don't trust you, and then they're not going to adopt if they feel like this model is actually it's trying to replace me or it doesn't understand me. So I guess for us, we took the bet, if you like, to say that if we do this correctly, we will actually move faster than if we didn't do it correctly.
Yeah, so building a strong foundation. I completely agree with that. Thank you so much. Then I think let's move forward to the nation scale, deployment. I know that you have like really a lot of experience in like many organizations. You're moving from like really deploying data science at Grab and also at like Great Eastern to building right now national AI infrastructure for Singapore and also for our region as well. So what are the unique challenges of like really serving a diverse market simultaneously versus really focusing on a single enterprise deployment such as Grab or like the Great Eastern?
Yeah, I laugh because in some ways doing an enterprise is harder. And let me tell you what I mean, right? Because when you build foundation models, we are trying to build something relatively homogeneous. Even though it can be used by many people, it's generalizable, right? And it's like doing primary school, like, not much, it's not much controversy. Basic things everybody need, your mother tongue, let's say if it's Thailand, Thai, or English in Singapore, and then, math, and so on and so forth. No one will disagree. Like building for specific enterprise is like doing PhD degree or postdoc, right? Everybody has a view. It can be very specialized. So I think actually in some ways, foundation models are powerful and they're easier because they're like more generalizable infrastructure. The other problem with the enterprise is this. We all know it's not the model, right? It's actually people. I call them the three Ps: people, process, and policy, right? It's not about technology. It's about trying to do change management. It's trying to get data plumbing correct. It's monitoring, it's compliance. These are all very difficult things. Aside from the very difficult thing of you still need to have a solution, right? You can have a model, but it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't solve any problem. So yeah.
That's really relatable, and I hopefully like in Thailand we will have the next step of like really a sovereign AI, like we can have like building national AI infrastructure like what Singapore have done, right? Okay, and the next question is about the global partners that you have, and also like comparing that because I mentioned about the regional sovereign AI. I know that Sea Lions also partner with like really global key players or big players, right? Such as like OpenAI and also Google, right? And then you can also still keep like maintaining the regional AI sovereignty, right? How would you suggest enterprise leaders to actually really balance between leveraging, very powerful global AI models versus like really maintaining the control over our own data and also like our own models?
Yes. Actually, I'm very, very strong believer in this, that we should always use the best tools available to solve our problem. And they can be open source and they can be, great services like Claude or OpenAI. We just need to be very careful about two things, right? One is data and the other is capabilities. The other concept, I guess I would say, is that sometimes big tech, right, they don't have time or energy to solve the problems that we care about. So there's complement. It's not competition, right? So if we do a better regional model, Google is interested because they want that actually to complement their models, right? And actually today we not only have Google or previously whatever will come out of Meta, but we have Quant too, right? And these are all different things where we're complementing, not competing. And finally, the thing I guess I would say to enterprise leaders are two things, right? You need to understand what are the capabilities that you think are strategic and what is the data you want to keep. And those are the two things that you may want more control over. But many things, other things you don't care. And actually there are a lot of data you may not care. But those that you really do care, you have to be very deliberate and careful about.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. Like a lot of this, especially the point that you mentioned about, complementing and not competing,
Yeah.
right? Okay, let's move to the next question. I think this one is about like, we have a lot of like, at least in Thai populations, we have a lot of like SME or SSMEs. And I know that you just co-chair the GPAI project, right, on the AI adoption specifically for the SME, right? And then I would bet that you probably observe like, some of the global patterns that, some SMEs like made common mistakes for like really scaling AI from like AI pilots to like really production systems. So what are the common patterns that you saw from this project?
I think for SMEs, the two observations I have. One is thanks to the AI hype, many people think AI is the silver bullet. And actually, to be honest, the problem that they face and the challenges that need solution may not be AI, right? It might be go to market. It might be a people problem. So first thing I would say is very fundamental. AI is a tool, but you need to get your strategy, business model correct, right? And then you know how to use the tool. The second is, again, SMEs, again, maybe it's thanks to us, people like us, they think of AI as a technology problem. But again, I think the most successful companies know that AI is just a tool. They specialize in solving problems and getting paid for that, right? And then they figure out how to use AI. They don't like, I'm using AI as the main reason why I exist. That doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Again, let's move to like, the more like, fundamental infrastructures of Singapore. Like you guys just recently announced this next generation supercomputer, which can really deliver 20 petaflops by the end of 2025. From like really enterprise perspective or point of view, what should the organization think about or needs as they really scale the AI initiatives up?
Yeah, actually, here I would be very pragmatic. I think there is a temptation to think that I need physical hardware or complicated infrastructure. My view for enterprises is this: actually start in the cloud, use whatever tools exist. Right. First, see if you solve a problem and you have a return on investment. Once the return on investment or the model, the business model, not the technical model, the business model, the business use case is clear, then you can optimize and then you can decide, okay, now I want to make, maybe my LLM a little more accurate. I want my LLM to be a little faster, or I want my database to be more integrated, etc., etc. But I guess for me, what's really different, I mean, we just ran a hackathon, for example. What's really different is that 2 or 3 people can build what lasts, even 5 years ago would take 30 people to build, right? Many things are there. So my first answer to this is never mind, just build first. It doesn't have to be perfect, because the hardest thing to validate is that actually you got a return on investment. And if you have a return on investment, then okay, now I need to take the next step, as opposed to let's build a perfect system. I don't know if I have any ROI, but I'm going to spend like $1 million on hardware. And then like at the end, you like, okay, what have you accomplished? We spent $1 million. The data scientists are happy, but the business is like, why did we spend $1 million? So I'd rather go the first route, and it's a pragmatic route. And this route is made possible because frankly, a lot of people are pouring tons of money into the cloud infrastructure, right? The infrastructure related to AI. And we should take advantage of that for now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And then relatable as well. Like, just go fast and can really trading later on. Don't have to like really build like, a really grand system first, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to, maybe like, since you've been like, across like so many industries, right? Financial services, ride sharing, also insurance and government AI initiative. What are the universal success factors that you observe, like, for bridging from like, really AI breakthroughs to actually really build a product and then turn it to business value?
Yeah, I think 4 things in my mind. First is, again, I want to emphasize this. We tend to look at this, maybe not everyone, but it tends to be a technical issue, right? We tend to say this is a technical problem. But actually, in my view, adoption is a human problem first. And secondly, the practical way of this coming out in an enterprise is that sometimes you would say, oh, head of data science or head of AI should be the champion. Well, maybe it could happen, but more likely this leads to failure, right? Because it cannot be just technical people who carry this weight. And that leads to my second thing. I think in organizations that are successful, you have an executive, meaning a very senior person, could be the CEO. He or she has to actually sponsor this. And he or she must also say that this is a problematic thing, right? That it will fail, but never mind, we need to do this. So that's number 2. Its adoption is a human problem. You need a business leader to really sponsor this. And third, I do think this is more for the team, that we don't get enamored by the technology. We actually should anchor a solution on a problem, right? What is the business problem? Can I really make go to market more effective? Can I really solve customer service? Not use the latest LLM or build the latest rack. Right? And finally, again, maybe this one is understated. There's a lot of boring stuff that needs to be done, right? And here, what do I mean by boring stuff? Right, data pipelines, right? They got bad data, bad result. Still the case. I need to monitor. I need to govern. I need to evaluate. I need to retrain again. All these are boring things that need to be put in place, right? So those are the 4 things in my mind that are crucial.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think a lot of that, I think I can already imagine myself adopting that, for the organization as well. So let's move forward to, more on the theme of like right now, people are talking a lot about like, responsible AI, right? I know that AI Singapore recently just conducted the world's first multicultural AI safety red teaming exercise. What would you suggest the enterprise leader to prioritize when we need to build this responsible AI governance framework for our organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is very important, but it's also one where, sometimes I feel like perfection is the enemy of the good. So maybe my thoughts in three layers, right? So first, I think the senior management of boards have to actually have a view, right? They must say what they care about or how they want the organization to care about, right? So high level stance on responsible I think it's important. It just sets the right culture. The second is the real challenge is that whatever you say, when you want to implement it, things keep changing, right? We are working with technology that is changing literally every day. So the challenge for management to try and take the nice words and implement it means that we need a flexible approach, right? We cannot like write a checklist. We cannot say this is the only way. Actually, what we probably have to do is say, these are the concerns. This is the best we have today. And we may have to adapt it and we will have to just learn, and iterate. And then lastly, I think to make the problem even more tractable, I would not suggest trying to solve problems in general, right? Don't say like, okay, our bot says we have to do this. Therefore, everything like in every AI model in our company has to address this issue. Well, actually, depends on the use case. If the model never sees public use, for example, I think certain concerns are less important, right? If it's just a model that is used for internal development, maybe it's a different kind of concern. Of course, if it's a public chatbot, then the concerns go up. So I think to me, these are three layers, right? Trying to just be pragmatic because I really believe it's very important. But I also know, like, if you write 200 pages of regulation, right, no one's going to do anything.
Yeah, yeah, completely agree with that. I mean, like the more policies we have, like I don't even think I can catch like all of the policy coming out right now.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the future of the AI deployment. I know that like the models that we built, I think like especially for the big key players, right? It's getting so much more capable. So if you look ahead for 26 and beyond, like what would you see if the model is gonna be so much capable, so hard to actually implement, or it can be small and it's more seamless, or what's your take on that?
Yeah, I actually think I think we're going to not care about models. We won't care about models anymore so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all the differences will be sort of like 5%, 10%, right? I think what will happen is that we will care about workflows, right? We will care about systems. So for me, the buzzword is agentic. Another way of saying it is that we move from thinking about models to workflows, right? How actually do we build a system to solve a problem? And what are the right tools in that, which could include different models and also other tools, right? Like databases and so on, and RAGs, for example. I think the other thing that will happen is that, we will live in a world where we will have multiple models, open source, closed source. Even in the closed models, we know ChatGPT has certain strengths, Claude has certain strengths, right? So it's quite plausible in my mind that it will be in an environment where, if I'm marketing, I'm using, my company uses ChatGPT. But if I'm coding, it's all Claude, right? And this may change over time. And then we do search, we do Perplexity. And then if we're just reading a PDF, actually we have our own, it could be Typhoon small model, right? Or Sea Lion small model. We don't have to have all. So actually we will have to become very good at managing many models, right? And keeping track of them. And I also think the cost will fall, continue to fall. And in particular, what this means is that, and models get more powerful, like Quant 32 is as good as DeepSeek, right? So actually what's going to happen is that more companies are probably going to bring things onto you could say edge, But actually in Southeast Asia, it's not so trivial, right? We cannot say, I mean, we sometimes forget, right? I cannot just say one node company can go and spin off. People look at the price tag and they panic, right? So it's quite plausible that people will have their own like one workstation, and that's going to help them for the whole business, right? And then they call the cloud for the other things. So this is a very decentralized hybrid system. I think very different than maybe how I imagined it like a year or two ago when the debate was like, I just shove everything to GPT-5, right? Or GPT-10. I don't think that will really be the case anymore.
Yeah, I think like preparing that's I can really relate to again, and then I think it's like really insightful that building the flows, like ensuring that we can actually adopt like different models, being more agnostics in terms of like model using, right? So that would be like a good well equipped suggestions for like us all. For the last question for the session today. Unfortunately, for the enterprise leaders, in our audience today, I think some of us are moving, beyond AI experimentation toward really the production deployment. What are the specific resources or like, maybe partnerships or like even initiatives that, we should all be aware of to accelerate the journey from study pilots to like business impacts?
Yeah. Maybe one other thought that I had on the other question, because this also relates to this, is that aside from orchestration, actually, we're going to have to learn the skill of evaluating very fast because we got lots of agents, right? So now we have to see who's best for what and so on. But on this point, I can't be very specific about what's happening in Bangkok, but here's my thought. I think you need to understand, in my view, many enterprises, it's very hard to keep up with the pace of change. So like the MIT Nanda report, I think it's important to work and co-develop maybe with some strategic startups, right? Maybe with like SCBX, right? 10. Because enterprises actually cannot do this, right? By the time an evaluation done in a traditional enterprises, a new model has already come out, right? It takes you like 4 months, 4 weeks, so many things. But also keeping up, right? Today you tell me use Claude code is great. Tomorrow it's Codex. The next day is Agent K. I'm kind of, enterprises cannot handle this kind of speed, right? Whereas a startup can. And my view is that co-developing a startup can be one way of doing this. The other is, but you don't do this for everything, right? I think it's again back to the issue of data and capabilities. For those things that are not crucial to you. So, for example, if you're a software development company or you do a lot of software development, then software development may be a crucial thing, right? But if you're a marketing company, you don't care, right? So if you're a software development company, it might be useful to partner with Cursor. It might be useful to partner with someone that can co-develop solutions for you. But for a marketing company, it makes no sense. So I think, again, depending on your strategic capabilities, some things you want to just use what's in the market. Other things, you may want to be more deliberate. And then the other thing we have to realize, and I don't know how enterprises can engender this, is that even the big guys, right, the hyperscalers, the people who are most advanced, we all know everything is like not working perfectly, right? I mean, those of us who try to use some of these, orchestration framework, you'll be like, oh, it's released in the US, it's actually not available in Southeast Asia, or it's released in Southeast Asia, but half the time you get a request timeout, right? So, and then by the way, they changed the API, they changed the code, they changed the documentation. A lot of things are changing. So, being able to understand this and say, okay, this is a bit of like development in real-time production. It's a bit scary, but unfortunately, this is the pace of change. Right? It's the reality of where we have to be. But don't over-index, don't overreact. But at the same time, need to get involved. Otherwise, the curve will just get further and further away from you, right?
Yeah, thank you. Like, again, I really completely agree with that. And I hope we have more time than this. But really, thank you so much, Dr. Leslie Teo, for joining us today. And yeah, very insightful for everyone. And hopefully, it's really beneficial for all of our audience as well. Thank you.
And all the best for the event. Thank you.